We cannot continue to have what we saw on October 7th. It's critically important to ensure that it never happens again, and I think the only way to do that is to ensure that Gaza becomes sovereign Israel territory.
I think Hamas and and others have shown that they can't use the Gaza Strip for proper reasons. And so, if you're going to be in Gaza attacking Israel, you don't deserve to be there. And unfortunately, there's so many Gazans who are trapped there and being used as human shields that they should be allowed to leave. And so, if there's any effort right now, we should try to free the Gazans to be able to go elsewhere. And then there should be a conversation about what happens with the Gaza Strip. I believe ultimately it belongs under Israeli sovereignty. We may have to go through several steps to get to that point, but I think other Gulf nations should join. America can lead. Of course, President Trump has the Trump plan, which I like, and I think that that's something that should be very seriously considered. I know that Prime Minister Netanyahu wants to get the war over with, bring the hostages home safely, but in the long run, I believe Gaza should be back under Israeli control.
I'm a combat veteran. I've spent 3 tours in Iraq and Kuwait, and if it's one thing I understand, it's that it's the strong horse that is the respected horse. The weak horse is despised and looked down upon and dispatched. And so the only way that you're going to have peace is to show strength. And so I think that, and there has to be a penalty. There has to be a penalty for such an evil and barbaric incursion as what Hamas did. And that means Hamas must be completely removed from that territory, and it must go back to Israel.
Iran just cannot have any sort of nuclear capability, is my opinion. If they even have a nuclear capability for energy purposes, I don't think that's necessary. There's plenty of gas, there's plenty of oil. They can use those resources for their utility purposes. Nuclear, Iran just has shown over and over again that they are a sponsor of terrorism, and that any sort of nuclear capability would ultimately give them ability towards a bomb. And that's not good, not only for Israel, but it's not good for the Saudis, it's not good for the Turks, it's not good for the region for Iran to have any sort of nuclear capability. And I think President Trump has made that clear. And I know that Prime Minister Netanyahu feels that way as well, and others. And so we need to all stand together, the Gulf nations and the United States, to say that Iran does not need to have any sort of nuclear capability. As far as President Trump saying not to attack, I don't know what all of the intelligence, the strategy that the Trump administration has. I know they have one. One thing that I do know is that President Trump stands strongly with Israel. And as they're navigating through this, there is some negotiations going on with Iran. But, ultimately, I know that President Trump will make the right decisions. And of course, Prime Minister Netanyahu needs to make the right decisions for Israel and to protect Israel. And so if they make that decision to attack Iran, they would obviously have some benefit, or would have some intelligence that showed otherwise. In fact, Austria just released a report that Iran continues to build out their nuclear enrichment program. And so there's others around the world that are saying the same thing. So I think that President Trump and Netanyahu, of course, have a great relationship, and will do what they both can to be sure that Israel is safe.
I think President Trump is a master negotiator. I think he knows what he's doing. There are times to go visit the Arabs, and there's times to go visit Israel. And so I think that he understands that. He understands that dynamic. And, it was the president himself who said, we should make Gaza into the Riviera. And I think that he has communicated to other Arab countries that they need to help find homes for the folks that are in Gaza and simply allow them to leave. Because right now they're really not being allowed to leave Gaza, and that's wrong. They should be. I mean, think about every other war-torn country in the world. Do we close their borders, and do we prevent the people there, the civilians there, from leaving? No, we don't. Absolutely not. So that should be the case for Gaza, too. The borders should be opened, and those people who are there should be allowed to leave if they want to. And I think the vast majority of them would. But I don't think Hamas wants them to because they need them as human shields.
The trip that President Trump made to the Arab states was quite the spectacle, and to see how he was received in Saudi Arabia and Qatar, where it was quite impressive. And of course, there was a lot of investment that was brought back to the United States through that visit. We want to have a good, strong relationship with the Arab states. We want to have, the Saudis have been great partners, and they, ever since 9/11, they've become better and better as they, make sure they suppress any sort of jihadist training or any sort of anti-Semitic sort of rhetoric. So, the Saudis have become good friends. UAE the Emiratis have become good friends. Qatar, I think, is unique. We have to ask a lot of questions. What is Qatar's strategy? What are they actually doing? Why are they funding Hamas? Is Hamas living in Qatar, at their hotels? And what is Qatar's end goal? The fact that they're not part of the Abraham Accords, I think, is also shows a symbol that they may have different intentions. So I think the intentions of the Qataris do need to come into question, and that's something that Congress should really look into. The airplane was already started to be discussed under the Biden administration. We have an issue in the United States with Boeing, the airline company that is supposed to be building 2 new planes for the president. That was actually signed back under President Trump's administration in 2018 to have those planes built, and they're way behind schedule. So I know that the United States government has been looking for other options, and this has been brought to the president from Qatar. Taking the plane, we're going to obviously have to retrofit it to be one that actually works for the president. I trust the president to do the right thing in this case, but the questions are, though, that Qatar cannot be sponsoring terrorism anywhere in the world.
This is my first time to Israel, and it's very important for the members of the United States Congress to be here within the borders of Israel to fully understand what's going on. I think a lot of folks in the world don't really understand the horrors of what happened. And when we went down to Gaza, to right north of Gaza, and visited the kibbutz, that was absolutely decimated, overrun, when we visited the military base down there that was overrun, and we saw the horrors of what Hamas actually did. This is an incredible evil organization, and it must be completely eradicated. There's no place in the world for this organization whatsoever.
It's always good to be in Israel, and to actually be here during the very concerning circumstances with the hostages in Gaza. We were able to travel down near the Gaza border to see the kibbutz where lives were lost, and of course the attacks were just gruesome, and then also the military base along the Gaza Strip. But we have got to be here. We want to be here to show support for Israel, to show support for the hostages. Of course, President Trump is our strong leader that can help bring this to an end, and we just continue to be here to do what we can to support that conclusion.
We had a great meeting with the Israeli Prime Minister as well as with the Speaker of the Knesset, and I look forward to continuing to build upon those relationships.